Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Adapters Take 5 Plus 1. Sean Worker's right there. I'm Glenn Hausman. Sean, we had such a good time learning so much with Alexi Khajavi last time, who is, of course, the president of Travel and Hospitality with QuestX. We decided to bring him back on. In the last episode, we learned a lot about where we are right now with you and your conferences. But I think the issue today is where are we going from here? Sean, take it away.
Yeah, so, everybody's upping their game, as you had mentioned about the quality and in our previous episode, speaking about matching and finding best and highest use of time. Can you elaborate on that and tell us why you're doing that and what comes after that? Because that becomes a new benchmark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, let's be honest. I mean, if you go to most trade shows or conferences today, there would be no difference between attending a conference or trade show in 1974. There's not been a lot.
And it's literally the same buffet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, that's I think my stomach just turned.
It never changes at Marlena's bar. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, you guys, Marlena's bar and a buffet. I mean, you're putting it to me. Yeah, look, I mean, the space has been stagnant in many ways. I mean, where you've seen innovation has been in really on the B2C side with festivals and other things. I mean, South by Southwest and those things have always been, I think, out there. But in the B2B space, we've rightfully relied on the fact that we bring buyers and sellers together. Mm-hmm. And there's no denying the ROI in that and the value in that. But I think what we as QuestX have really moved towards as a mission is we want to help people live better, live longer, and live happier lives. And so we really position ourselves in the experience economy. And that's not just because, we've got travel and hospitality as markets that we're deep in. We also work in life sciences, healthcare, and technology.
Right.
But the reality is that business people don't want just boring, meetings and boring content. People want experiences in both their professional as well as personal lives. So, we're really trying to figure out how we can create more of an experiential B2B type environment where, yes, buyers and sellers come together. But, one of the ways that we're doing that is that typically in a conference or a trade show, you go to buy things that you then bring back to your real life, right? What we're working on is let's go have a trade show or a conference where you actually go experience the things that you want to have in your real life, and then you also get to buy them. So it's a small distinction, but it's an important one. There's a lot of ways that we're doing that. And then obviously you've got a lot of stuff on the tech side, particularly around matchmaking.
Yeah. All right. So I love that. It's a nuance, but it's absolutely critical because by phrasing it that way, you're reframing the way you think about absolutely everything. Yeah. Instead of thinking this is the way we used to do it. Now you're like, how do we make this more meaningful? How do we make an emotional connection with our attendees to the event, no matter what side of the aisle they're on?
Spot on. I mean, look, just like us, I mean, we can't compete with Amazon. I mean, right. if all you want to do is click and buy, somebody's doing that. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. In fact, a lot of people are doing it. The big one, of course, being Amazon. So we've got to do something different. We've got to think about, markets that require people to get together face to face.
Right.
And then we've got to empower that sort of interaction and that ecosystem to actually be an example of, how they would use those products in a real life situation, or, what hospitality is. As a hotel investment conference, we've got to think about, what's the best way to operate that conference to drive asset value, because that's an example of a hotel using an event like ours to drive profitability. So the food's got to be good, the experience has got to be good, people got to leave there with a high net promoter score. So all of those things, which have typically been off balance sheet or off the P&L, we try and build into the KPIs and do a better job of. And then, as we talked about last time, and look, the reality is that if you went to 10 conferences in 2019, next year you're going to go to 3. 2023, you may go to 5. 2020, blah, blah, you ratchet it up. It's what we've seen after every single crisis, 9/11, the GFC in 2008, 2009. So look, we it's going to take us a while to get back. But the only way really to get people back is to make sure that the right buyers and the right sellers in the room, but also to give them an experience that they enjoy.
So at the top of the show, you listed 3 pillars, one of which is being informed, in addition to the experiential side. Again, offline, we discussed at length about how transfer of knowledge and walking away more informed seem to be a core reflective type product that you're thinking of putting in front of attendees to go back informed. How will that manifest itself in less than 5 weeks?
Well, it didn't start just now. I mean, we over the last 2 years, even pre-pandemic, we made a conscious decision to not separate our media or our content and information part of our business from our events and live engagements, which is typically how B2B media companies do. You've got your content team over there, and then you've got your events team over there, and they really have very little interaction in some of these organizations. We've always had a very vibrant, editorial team. Glenn knows that very well. And what we did about 2 years ago is we brought them together. So now on one website, you've got your event website and you've got your content website. Mm-hmm. The content that we see at the events, we then repurpose and show post-event, either in video or editorialize them. The content that you read on our site as a subscriber, we track that. And if one story performs particularly well, our conference production team then looks at actually putting that into a live session.
Beautiful.
It's not rocket science. I mean, Glenn, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum for years. It's just the technology is there. We're using it, and we're letting the users of that content, whether that be in a live engagement or online, really kind of drive back to the editorial team and back to the content team for the conferences. What is the type of content they want to see? And let's do more of that. So it's pretty simple, but it's absolutely effective.
Right. It's absolutely a great use of your resources as well by combining those entities. And instead of a reporter having to go out over there and find the newsworthy stuff, boom, it's right there. It's easier. And as you said, helps inform you. Sean?
So as this clear acceleration of many of the events moving from being the tent in the yard to being the platform that goes on all year and you dip in and out of it. Just our last question probably is to ask, what do you think are the 2 to 3 problems that you're really trying to solve right now that you're trying to get your head around?
I mean, just off the top of my head, and it's probably stuff that we've just been talking about this week because I'm in New York, for strategic meetings. One is as we move to this experiential, business live engagements, if you will. The fact is that many of the sellers don't know how to do that. They put up a sign, they bring a few brochures, and they look bored and, frankly hungover.
That's right.
Not exactly the person you want to walk up to and say, hey, how's it going? What do you got here? So we've got to find ways to help the market actually sell better and sell in a more experiential way. That's number one. Number two, we're really focused on things that fall in between markets. So, for example, we've got life sciences and healthcare, and we've got travel and hospitality. What about medical tourism? Things like obviously senior living. There's a lot of markets that we go narrow and deep in, but there's a lot of also sort of, plays like technology that go through those markets. So we're looking at trying to combine things. We combined our World Tea Expo with our Bar and Restaurant Expo this year in Vegas. So you got a bunch of specialized tea folks, next to, guys that are rocking to, Led Zeppelin on, speakers and trying out, Diageo's latest tequila. A lot of people will be like, well, what the hell do those two markets have in common? Well, actually, they have a lot in common. There's a lot of innovation in, using tea type products in, spirits and cocktails. So we think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to blend some of these markets. We're doing it with you, Sean. You're supporting us with adjacent spaces. at IHIF, which has always been just about hotels. We're bringing student housing into that, and senior living, co-working, co-living. So a lot of innovation in those spaces. And then third, I think, one of the things that just needs to change is that this idea that you can treat a customer as a very important customer for 3 days of the year and then forget about them for the other 362. That's a bad business model, and we don't believe that there's a lot of future in that. So we're trying to build communities, and that's a community is dependent on a constant sort of relationship. So those would be the top three.
Thank you for that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Alexi, thank you so much for being here. Really informative as always. We appreciate you. So, Sean, what strikes me as really interesting here is they are seeing stuff that might be plain and obvious to folks like you and me, but has eluded the conference space for so long. So by doing these things and by combining and creating some overlap, I think you've got a Venn diagram of trade show success right at your fingertips.
Yeah, I think what I also heard, Glenn, was, and I agree with you completely, is that, there's a big difference between platform companies like Questex that has the luxury to go horizontally across their individual shows and then find the best and brightest to then expose that to other categories, which I think is amazing. And then the second part is the game has gone up, and Alexi has highlighted three of the major challenges, but equally, next year has to look dramatically different. And so this is the beginning of the research.
Yes, it is. And we encourage all of you out there to participate in the research, rethink and reinvent what you're doing. And that's what adaptation and innovation is all about. Want to learn more about adapting? Well, of course, go buy the adapters. Go to theadapters.net or find us on Amazon.com and your favorite booksellers, and also on Apple Books. So for Sean Worker and myself, Glenn Hausman, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.